thanks to Simon Hare and Keith Beck and Cheryl Walker for encouraging this committee's work. And I wanted to give a special shout out to Vic Harris. He's been, him and Lynn have just been awesome in helping the committee with our work. And Vic, I understand that your department is doing a good job selling that county lumber that got burnt. Working hard to get that going, and that's what a hard amount of work is done. And Vic, you've been so kind to our committee and helping us, and we appreciate it. And Lynn, you're top. We're going to have another meeting for the committee in early December. We're going to try to meet here, and I'll get it out to you guys. We got some more work to do. But I have another important thing to do here right quick. We've asked various groups that are attending that like to report to us at large, kind of some of what you're doing. And just to kick it off, I've got one geologist here that's locally known and does geological work worldwide. And Jim Rodine, if you're here, did you come, Jim? Oh, there you go. Why don't you give us a little shout out of some things you know that's going on, or what's up, or what you think we might want to know. We'll give you 3 minutes.
3 minutes is all I need. Yeah, there are a lot of things going on around here. My father-in-law had the Greenback mine, had the Almeida mine. So there was a mining history here. My adopted family, and thanks for your presentation. And I do think that we should get the field office back here. Yeah, I would support that for sure. And there's a lot of, I actually have a small class of mine and an interesting Almeida school, which I'm pursuing. But there are a lot of ups and downs, of course. But planning is important, as Tom pointed out, and the whole process can take years and years. I'm working with a fellow down in Winston that's been 10 years. It will be in February, which you've seen before. He had problems with the sand and gravel operation. And so there are issues. It's important to know your job. It's important to know what you have to work with and to deal with all of the people and just try and do as upfront as you can. And eventually, if you have some good work, you can get it done.
Okay.
Plus, if you're designing a trommel, you might need a place to test it.
I've been working on a new trommel design, and he let us go out to this mine and play the dirt, and I actually found some gold. Yeah. You know, if you guys ever need to fly in a happy camp, I went with Jim. We did some consulting for a group down there, and I've flown a lot in seaplanes in Louisiana. But when I realized we had to make 2 loops through the valley to get back up over the hill, I haven't volunteered to fly with Jim since. You got to lap the valley for a while and then fly up over the top, and then you're right in Cape Junction suddenly. So I'm glad I'm alive. You know, thank you for that. But boy, did we look at some geology from that airplane, and riding with the geologist pointing out the plutons and all this stuff from a bird's eye view was a huge treat. I got another friend here, Jim Frick from Southern Oregon Resource Alliance. Where are you, Jim? Hey, there you go. Why don't you say something? We like you.
Well, something.
What are you guys doing over at SOAR anyway?
Well, Southern Oregon Resource Alliance is concerned with timber mining and agriculture, and that was the foundation of our county. And so we're working on more education to our community, and we're working with an idea of setting up some subcommittees now on timber separated from mining, separated from agriculture, that we can actually go into the schools and start teaching the kids about, you know, that if it wasn't mined or grown, that they're probably not using it today. You know, what a concept. And so that's the newest thing that we want to do. Since we've been losing so much in the way of FFA in our community, we've been going away from timber mining and agriculture. We'd like to bring it back into the main focus of our county. And that's why we've been working so diligently with the commissioners and had their ear. It was nice that Keith, who was involved with my timber committee, understands that. He's been looking at those resource issues. Simon's been doing the same thing with the mining. That's why you're putting these things together. And we appreciate everything that these committees are doing. I just like to continue to see this continue to work. We have a major hemorrhaging in this county right now, as you know, with public safety. And a lot of these dollars and stuff that can be retrieved from implementation, we feel the mining and the timber can help restore our public safety, and that's what we're looking at too.
Thanks, Ken. We have Mr. Mike Cope. He's working with various groups. I like Mike because he's a history nut, and he digs. And the only problem with Mike is that once you get him teaching, you better have some time, because he can cover more ground. I wish he was a professor in a class where we could go listen to him lecture. But Mike, could you take 2 or 3 minutes to tell us kind of some of the projects you're working on, please?
Well, since Tom brought it up, in 1993 is when I rediscovered our gold tellurides we have in our county. In 93, it did have an importance, and now it does because it's energy, and it's a semiconductor material. And over the years, there was a couple of investigations towards the subject. There was an investigation in 1927. We thought it was tin, and I believe it was tellurium. Currently, I've got Oregon State working with me on a project on some actual analyzing of materials for various mines. And it's a subject that needs to be looked at because it's brand new. And if we base everything around gold, it ain't going to happen because of the environmentalists. But tellurium last year was put on the critical mineral list, and Walden just signed on that, on the Strategic Critical Mineral Act. So that will speed up our permitting process for critical and strategic minerals. Pretty much about it.
Hey, Mike, thanks for all your digging and hard work and tenacity. So, if you knew all the years that some of these guys have dug and scratched and gone to Salem and gone all over to try to keep our community in a positive posture. And, you know, I even went up, Wally Hicks sent us up to the Natural Resource Committee at the House. And one of our best contributors to the report was Sheriff Gil Gilbertson. He was explaining that if we shut down all these logging roads and mining roads, that they can't get out there and rescue us guys when we're hunting and fishing or messing around. So it's all important that we work together, and I appreciate that, the kindness and the attitude of the people I've been working with so much. Is there anyone else that we missed that has a quick report? And then we'll go to a couple of questions and answers. Frank?
You want me to go over this plan that I have here, or?
Well, you can just give a sketch on it. Most you can talk is 3 minutes according to my rules.
I can go.
Good.
Everybody knows that SB-838 made a big dent in placer mining. So I've been pouring through the text of that to see what's going on, what there's an exemption to it, and there is. There is an exemption to the moratorium provided to any mine that holds a DOGAMI grant of total exemption. It's a $50 permit. If you're moving less than 5,000 yards per year, you affect less than 1 acre in 1 year, less than 5 acres total. You get the permit. It's simple. I've got an application, and I only had the ability to make 10 copies, but I've got the application for the permit in these. And I think the county needs to get this permit for at least one site so that we can say that we have a place that's legal for people to go gold dredging. There's going to be a high demand for places to use suction dredge, and the county can make revenue from this. Just that one spot in Great Creek, pick that, use that for a pilot program, see how it goes. And I got the details on that in my.
Let me say this to this committee that I'm on. I was in Africa doing some consulting for White's Electronics on how to find gold with metal detectors. And these rascals voted me the chair while I was out of the country. And I've been afflicting them ever since. So I want to thank all you guys. Our Jack Swift has been a co-heart of mine, helping and understand. And some of these guys like Tom Kitcher and Dave, presidents of their mining clubs. We've got a good team, a lot of years of experience, a lot of years of litigation. We've learned how to know our mining laws, how to do things right. And let me say this, and then we'll finish up with a couple of questions and answers. I've had the privilege, because of being the chair of the committee, to work with a lot of different people at the state level and all across the region. And when you begin to see the LiDAR picture of what the potentials are, and I've talked to several guys about not just mining economy, but mining technology. Building mining equipment right here in Josephine County and export it worldwide. I just come back from Africa. They need mining equipment, mining technology, they need geologists. They need, you wouldn't believe the amount of mining that's over here in West Africa. I stood in one place and could see maybe 10 miles, and in all directions, as far as you could see, was tailing piles. It was done with a pick and a little wooden pan. And we know in Brazil and Mongolia, a lot of places in the world, and I tell you, China is rushing into those places with mining technology. Well, Josephine County, hello. We've got I-5, we've got the Redwood Highway, we've got a railroad, we've got an airport, we've got Tom, and now we got Andre, we got all these guys on our side. Why wouldn't we launch deeper into educating kids possibly? We've been having long conversations about possibly a mining school somewhere back in Southern Oregon, our field office. And I say, we could get back in the game. Now, you saw all the dots on the map. We have a history. We're sitting right in mining country. Got a lot of guys around here that's built stuff. I've been out to many of your mines. I appreciate Commissioner Hare. He's gotten a truck with me, and I've drug him all over. He lifted more rocks than any commissioner ought to. But wouldn't it be fun to get a group of educators, legislators, and experts together and try to figure out, you know, what do we have and how can we move into the future with best use machinery, best use techniques, modern discovery for lazy geologists that don't want to go out there anymore? Why not?
We still want to go out there.
You want to go out there?
We just don't want to hike through the poison oak.
No more, but, so having said that, there's a growing thing like Jim Frick was talking about, educate our kids. I know, and I'll say this with all humility and urgency, I met with some of the top leaders in Africa and in Dubai, Arabia. They love to send their children to America to be educated because we treat their kids nice. We send them back home not messed up. And when your kids go to other countries, so a lot of the national leaders in the Middle East and Africa, South America, we got a value here that we may not be tapping into completely. So there's a lot of ways to look at these issues, and we're learning this as we're walking along together. So having said that, anybody else has a Q&A? You got a question? David
I
Callis.
want to know if that LiDAR, if we could get some type of mapping from that.
We can make a lot of different kinds of maps from the wire. What you thinking about, Dave?
Oh, out in my area.
I think it was collected along the Applegate, so it's out there. It's just a matter of, if it's not on the publicly accessible, ready for download thing yet, it will be eventually.
Okay.
So,
You mean like an ancient old shell that knows it's up there, you're gonna go find it? Sorry, Commissioner. Mr. Coe.
Tom, are we ever going to get the 7.5-minute map of Grand Pass Quadrangle done, or is that still in the making, or?
it's
is it ever
still
gonna
on
be
the
published,
list.
or-
We've done the field work and we've done most of the study. Just have to get time to get it done.
It would be very helpful.
Any other
Most of
questions
that
back
map is
there?
back in the corner.
Quiet line. Hey, Woodhead, ask a question.
I just think this is great. I'm looking forward to seeing more activity in the county
Yeah.
and looking forward to the economy picking up because of the efforts of you guys.
So you've been in the hotel and hospitality business, and you also fly that big balloon around town, scare all the cats and dogs and horses off. We talked at length one time about the tourist potential of our history and our geography, because if someone come to
It's
town,
untapped.
floated the river and went out in the gold pen, or maybe at the county mining museum or whatever, or right here in the middle of town, maybe someone will start a mining museum right down by the bridge. I mean, there's tourism possibilities here.
potential is there. Just need to tap into it.
Don't you think we ought to believe in ourselves here in Josephine County that we got something on?
We're special.
We're special. Mr. Woodhead said we're special. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Mr. Wiley, you said that there was some land out on Lower River Road where there was, that was dedicated or given to DOGAMI to have a field office. Is there still an office out there?
Oh, no. No, they, I wasn't around at that time to know exactly what happened, but they determined that we probably couldn't accept land and building, and so they were sold and the money divided between the different parties that were involved in the well,
That's right, I
yeah, I think we ended up with a pickup truck.
You think I ought to pick on Mr. Andre Pollock a little since we got him here? We ought to treat him equally bad like everybody.
We wouldn't want him to waste a trip.
Mr. Pollock, tell us a little about your position in DOGAMI, and could you give us some hard realities about what it might take to get a field office back here? Because I know you know the dollars and cents and the protocol.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the DOGAMI real quick. You know, we have two main pieces. We have the mining regulation side, which Kerry Lynch handled out of the Albany office. And then we have the geologic survey and services part, which Tom is part of, where we do our mapping and all those kinds of things. The reality for natural resource agencies in Oregon, for the last 20, 30 years or whatever, it's been pretty visible in that our slice of what the state actually contributes towards our budgets has been shrinking dramatically. And so when we actually closed the Grants Pass office about 3 biennia ago, I think it was because we had a 30% cut in our general fund. So it was a fairly dramatic shrinkage of our resources. We've actually done fairly well as an agency because we've been very opportunistic in terms of chasing things like LiDAR, applying new science, and going after, I'll call it project money. So we go after special grants, special projects, monies from the federal government. The LiDAR brought in a lot of federal money, and we use that to continue to fund a lot of our activities, some of the geology, a lot of the flood mapping, landslide mapping, earthquake work, and those kinds of things. But it's a challenging world we live in because over 60% of our income now is one-time out type of projects. We just completed the tsunami map on the coast. That was a 5-year project. It's done, and there's been some continuing money, but it's very much lower sources of revenue. So that's a challenge that we have.
It is, yeah.
And I'm hoping that, I think we've gone through a fairly long cycle, for 10, 12 years here of pretty tough budgets for everybody. And so I'm kind of optimistic that things are going to start to improve, and maybe the pendulum will swing, the state will look to invest more. But the challenge we have as a state agency is we can't lobby. We can put forward our budget packages and stuff and hope to get some traction with that through the legislature. But a lot of what we get is very dependent on communities and people of Oregon wanting it and advocating for it and pushing for it.
So if some of our people here in southwestern Oregon were to go to the purse string guys, the people that in Salem, that the oversight committee, budget guys, and say, if you'll give us that field office back, we'll generate more tax money and sit up there. Just something like that. We need to lobby for our own interests.
I'm not sure what the deal would look like, but
Yeah.
the reality is if you were to do it, we'd love to have the office back open here.
Well, I'm sure our commissioners.
We'd love to redo improve our Baker City office here, because we're down to one person there.
Wow.
We really would like to do more, and especially when we start talking about minerals, that's our history. We formed around that, and we do very little of it now, and almost none of it's funded. So that's our challenge.
Well, I would imagine, though, in our county situation, that we might be working closely with you guys at some point in the future to try to figure out how we can fund the field office. And appreciate what you're doing and coming all the way down and be with us. I had lunch with these guys. He's got a lot of interesting insights that we might consider in the near future. Mr. Bill?
Wondering, are these maps available online?
Which one?
Just go in and look at.
The ones I was showing?
Yeah.
the database that they're generated from is available. And then you have to be able to play with a computer. Anyone in particular you're thinking about?
I live out in the Williams area, and I'd like to look at.
Are you more interested in the specific dots and the specific mines, or are you interested in the geology that was in the back, or what would you like? The geology is available online as well, so
You need to chair the committee to get the fill up. You don't have any vote for Bill to be. Mr. Swift.
Well, early on in the presentation, there was a map of Josephine County with all of those red dots were gold mines and plants. Right? I'm wondering, would it be possible to get that so as to superimpose DeFazio and Walden's plan for mineral withdrawal to show how many of those dots would go away?
I think we have an open file report, do you remember the number? That describes which of those would be impacted by the expanded wilderness proposal. So that's
Go online to the county and then.
OregonGeology.com.
You know, we have a friend in Washington, Doc Hastings. He's the chair of the Natural Resource Committee for the House out of Washington. And boy, I wish we had some highly educated talking heads like Tom Kitcher or someone we could send to Washington. Wouldn't Tom be great in Washington? We could send him our own Abraham Lincoln, Tom Kitcher, the president of Walden Mining. But we need to communicate better and more accurately and find out who's on which side of the issues. And I was even talking to Andre about how do we dialogue with environmental groups in this and try to kind of raise the tide on reality versus, misinformation or science. So there's some things that these kind of conversations can really help move down the road. Dave?
I'm about like the same thing as what Jack was doing. Is there any way we could superimpose that map that he's talking about with county lands?
You guys have a county land plan?
Well, we do, we have an old version of, maybe after January, we might want to do that. We're expecting.
So the answer is maybe.
Okay, I think I'd like to see you working on that.
Jack?
With the Timber Advisory Committee, I did put together a county map that designates each of the locations which could be superimposed.
Good. We're getting places, huh? Anybody else have an important question or something you probably shouldn't say, but you're going to anyway? Going once, going twice?
We'll look at the DOGAMI folks look over my assessment on this use of this permit. If they can let us know if I'm looking at this correctly, or if I overlooked something, I'm going to get a copy of that.
That'd be the department in Albany, probably have to look at it.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead and ask one. We want an off-the-wall question.
Here's an awful lot question. There's a committee meeting that follows this one at 3 or 3:30.
Uh-huh.
And there's some, I think Dave and some other people would like to attend it, but they've been told that they are not allowed to attend it. Is that,
I don't have the details on how that's working.
is that executive committee meeting or something like that? And why is it an executive committee meeting if you're just going over a certain law? That's my off-the-wall question.
You know what? I would ask the commissioners, because I would.
Oh, let's ask the commissioners. They're there. Can we ask you that? Keith?
So, thinking that Danny was down here, and we have a couple of things that have come forward as proposals for mining on county lands. ORS 192.660 gives us the opportunity to meet an executive session on this subject. And so we've invited DOGAMI to participate. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to move the ball forward on a couple of proposals. And so that's what we're meeting on. It's not open to the public. And it's not important to know why. We have to go into executive session on this. It's provided for under state law. So, but all of this stuff, before a decision is made on any subject, that has to be made in public. So we're not making a decision. We're just generating, gathering information.
Did you just say it's not important to know why?
Not at this point. You will in the future. If we choose to do anything, you'll have to know. I can't do anything at this point. All I can do is gather information. So,
Simon?
yeah.
So you're saying that you have a couple proposals for mining operations on county lands?
We're trying to refine the process with how we determine what's the best step forward on addressing proposals.
That, I thought you were.
A little bit more clarity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, because, you know, I've had my application in since 2008, I'm still waiting on the county land.
2007. Yeah, we're aware of
Well,
that.
the more the money's the more the
Not
money,
exactly a
so.
simple process.
Thanks, President. Any, Mr. Frick?
I just was wondering, I was talking with the sheriff just now, and how has the 1870, mining act been affected by the new talk about taking these mines out of production in wilderness areas?
That's Tom Kitcher, he knows more than
Tom,
you.
you know?
I'm not sure I totally understand your question.
Well, how can a wilderness bill take precedent over the 1870s mining act, I
Okay,
guess I'm saying, and how can they go ahead and remove that from our,
The way I understand the Wilderness Act, I've done some research for Dave Rattan, who purchased Emily Camp out in the middle of Kalamiopsis. If a mining claim exists before a wilderness is put in around it, then that claim may still exist. But before you can do any mining on the claim, at that point, once the wilderness goes in, the government has the option of telling you, oh, we must check the validity of the claim and come out and do a mineral exam. If the claim passes the exam, then the claim will exist. If it doesn't pass the mineral exam, then the claim is null and void, the claim's gone. And you cannot file any new claims, obviously, in the wilderness area, because it normally comes with a mineral withdrawal attached to it. Interestingly enough, existing valid claims within a wilderness area, under the Wilderness Act, it's clearly stated there, the only accepted use of that claim is mining and things that are incident to mining. If you have a claim out in the middle of the Wilderness Act, the Wilderness Act would allow putting a road in to that site. I know Dave Rattan and I forget the guy, Carl Allman, who tried to get permission to use the road that goes right down into the Emily camp, and they never quite got that from the Forest Service. I know Carl spent a small fortune in court trying to get use of that road. I never saw the court papers, so I'm not sure they argued it correctly. It's obviously an RS 2477 right away. It was there long before 76. I don't know how they managed to keep him out of there. Maybe it was just because Carl had, I guess, deep pockets, were too much to lose. If he just says, well, the heck with you, I'm driving down this road whether you like it or not, and let it go from there, maybe that would have been the better way to go about it, I don't know. But the way I understand it, if you have a valid existing claim within a wilderness area, you can still mine. If they make a new wilderness area and there's claims already there, the owners of those claims may not be able to mine until they're checked for validity, and the way I understand it, the local Forest Service might be budgeted to fund one exam a year. And this is from information I obtained back in about 2000. I would remind the commissioners that we have in our county ordinance where it is the policy of Josephine County to be against any wilderness areas within Josephine County, and that predates the Biscuit Fire. I can give you the number for that, I don't have it with me, but it's...
Now you guys see why I think we should send Tom to Washington. He would be a fresh breath of air. Mr. Coe.
And just further on that same subject, for example, currently, the new wilderness expansion of the Mount Reuben Mining District and the Police District has a mine called the Benton Mine, and that's in an area, and when I was at the meeting with BLM at the county commissioner's presentation in January, they were, Diane Perry clearly made it clear that if the Benton mine area goes into a mineral withdrawal under this program, that the credibility of that mining claim would have to come back through BLM. And I said, that's ridiculous. I said, this mine has been in production for all these years, and she said, it's gonna take a while to, and it's gotta be done through BLM. You can't hire any outside consultants, it has to be done through them.
But to pass validity, the claim you have to be able to show that, not that you're actually gonna do this, but you have to be able to show on paper that you could mine this ground at a profit with all necessary required permitting. So what you might have been able to do in the 1930s or 40s, chances are you can't do most of that anymore today. So I mean, that you have to look at that factor too. Can you get the permits that would allow you to actually move X
Well,
cubic
that's the only
yards?
thing they couldn't tell me on was whether or not I could get a haul permit out of it on BLM roads.
Sure.
You can mine on,
Yeah,
you can't haul it out.
Smack him in the back.
Yeah, I can actually add on to the thing, what happens when a wilderness withdrawal takes place. I've studied a lot of that, especially with the new one they're doing in Mount Reuben. Under both the Wilderness Act and the Wild and Scenic Act, which are both issues coming up now, because the other part of the plan they want to do, in addition to doing the wilderness going into Mount Reuben all the way to Bailey Creek on the backside of Galeese, is also come up Galeese Creek, go up Grave Creek. Every claim that is in that area, they are required by the provisions of the Act to do validity. So basically, if you want a mining claim on Mount Reuben, on Galeese Creek, on Grave Creek, and they do this, you're going to undergo validity. In the meantime, you cannot work the claim during that time until such time validity takes place. There is a waiver for your assessment work, and basically you'll be forced to undergo validity, and basically those areas, they will be taken out effectively. And I do know I've had this conversation with Diane Perry, because I've already asked her what's going to happen if these pass. Do BLM have the resources? How many people do you need? It's already been kind of made clear to me, like Medford BLM, they can't deal with it. Much as Tom was saying, Forest Service, they don't have the money to do this. They've already done this with the Chetco, had a claim over there. 3 years ago, they put it into a temporary withdrawal for 2 years. They've done nothing, and the temporary withdrawal has already expired, and they've actually got nothing done with some mapping, because they just don't have the resources. And that's one of the things we're working on in Galeese District, is trying to combat the withdrawal going into Mount Reuben. So if anybody is really interested in helping with that, please get in touch with me after this. But that is kind of what's required, is they do have to do validity, and they do have to do a mineral survey on the full area. So any geology reports like DOGAMI has, they would be going to DOGAMI and saying, what do you have in the way of geology reports on this, mining records? And they have to go out there and literally look at everything that is there and actually do a full mineral survey on the area. If you go online, you can actually find the one that was done on the county offices way back when in '64.
Okay.
So that, but needless to say, when this does happen, mining-wise, you can count on it, like the county offices, it's just gone. You know, because by hook or crook, they're gonna get most of those claims out of there.
So for those that don't know you, would you identify yourself?
My name is Kirby Jackson, and I'm currently a reporter for the Galeese Mining District.
Yeah. How long you been in the mineral game?
Too long. Way too long.
So how many mining districts do we have right now in Richmond?
3.
So you, the 3 guys are here? Jefferson. All right, any other quick questions? Are you guys satisfied?
I got one.
Okay, Nikki Gordon.
I would like to direct my question to Mr. Tom Wiley as well as our 2 commissioners. To reiterate what we've already had, but to bring it back up to focus, what steps can be taken to expedite the return of DOGAMI to the Grants Pass area?
Well, I think
You can talk to this crowd if you want to say.
I think Andre addressed that pretty well. He took a big cut in about 2009 and had to lay off the salesperson there in Grants Pass, Kathleen, who many of you know, and who was really an expert in the different maps around here and could save a lot of people a lot of time in getting what they needed instead of maybe picking out the wrong thing. And my position is still in Portland. There are a lot of different ways you could reconstitute a field office, and we'll just have to see what comes out of the discussion.
Sounds to me like you go to the legislature.
Well, we'll be talking amongst ourselves here and try to come back, keep this idea of the field office moving ahead if it suits everyone. Mr. Cole?
I'd like to ask Tom what he thinks about the importance of having a laboratory established here to do mineral research on tellurium and the relationships of the gold tellurites, to start modeling further these deposits so we can understand them, and to be able to share the information with DOGAMI and other facilities like Oregon State, but along to help assist the local miners and other people. Do you think that would be a good, to have a laboratory here locally? Since DOGAMI had the last one?
Yeah, it's been a while since we had ours. How many of you guys are sending your samples out of state for assay? Well, there's a couple. It turns out that there aren't too many labs around, and depending on the kind of data you need, you have to pick, one lab or the other. An inexpensive lab that could process a lot of samples that was local would certainly be helpful to all the miners and prospectors. The challenge for a lab is the certification that things like this Canadian standard, that the folks that are writing and reviewing the reports for mines that want to fund themselves through stock offerings on the Vancouver or Spokane exchanges, that level of laboratory creation would be more expensive, but I don't know, there's a lot of options with a lab, and really the driving force is the need to get some good data, and there's always that need.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, we've got some folks that let me know earlier that they need to move on unless there's some really important business at hand. Let's get ready to adjourn.
Can I mention one thing?
Please.
The history of Josephine County, the way I understand it, started with the placer mining of gold. The Althouse region, Sucker Creek, Waldo, Estuary Lakes, the Illinois Valley. It spread from there throughout the whole county. County-wide, just about every stream in Josephine County carries some amount of gold. Presently, Department of State Lands has designated roughly 85% of every stream in Oregon as essential salmon habitat. Starting January 1st, because of SB-838, DSL is prohibited from issuing more than 850 fill and remove permits. This is a permit that's required for any type of fill and remove activity within an essential salmon habitat waterway. Last year they issued over 2,000 of these permits, so obviously there's a lot more interested people that want the permit than they're going to be allowed to issue. What we're looking at for this coming summer, unless something has changed, is catastrophic. It's going to create problems that the average citizen might not see it in Josephine County, but for the mining industry, it could spell the doom. We only have one mining shop in this whole area, basically, and they're hanging on by a thread. Their business has, I wish Bob was here today because he could just testify for himself.
He had to go get a job.
Yeah. They're hurting, and it's just going to get worse. Some of the people, the miners that I know, are not necessarily so level-headed and peaceable. The mining law says what it says, and legally, I don't see how the state has the authority to prohibit mining on federal land. Unfortunately, this bill was written, most of the crazy restrictions really only seem to apply to what the state has defined as recreational mining on ground that is not open to mining under the mining law, such as up in the Rogue River, up by where Gold Ray Dam was. Unfortunately, the bill covers everywhere, whether it's federal land that's open to the mining law, or just state land, or county land for that matter. Now, this bill doesn't affect the hard rock miner, but it drastically affects the individual placer miners who are the backbone of the mining industry in this area, and will always be that. You don't see us. You're DOGAMI, you don't really have figures unless it was a giant placer operation like Estuary Lakes or whatever. You don't have numbers from individual placer miners as far as what they took every year. Even the suction dredgers today, you don't know how much we're producing. I would estimate, just from my own knowledge, that most suction dredge miners are producing at least, even if they're doing poorly, several ounces a year. If you multiply that by a few hundred of us, that begins to be a fair sum of money that's being secretly pumped into the community. Because we don't have a badge across our forehead, I'm a gold miner. I don't know what to do about it. I'm going to a convention down in Reno to talk to some people that are in touch with the governor. I know there are lawsuits being prepared. It could get exciting this summer for the sheriff's department, I'm sorry to say. But that's basically, I don't have a solution. I just want to make sure everybody understands. We're really balanced on a knife edge right now. We've been fighting off attacks against placer mining, especially suction dredging, since the 1990s. It's never ending. It just seems like they always come up with something new, some new avenue to attack us. At one time, I don't know if you guys know, that the whole Siskiyou National Forest, 1.2 million acres, was withdrawn from mineral entry for a short period of time due to this issue over suction dredge mining. And an adjacent 600,000 acres of BLM lands. That happened right before the Bush administration, the end of the Clinton administration. This is the power of the environmental movement. They're driving all of these attacks on our whole community, whether it's mining, timber, whatever. They're the ones doing it. And they make a lot of money doing it. While the rest of us starve.
Well, as the chair,
I leave it at that.
As the chair, I'm not supposed to say anything, so I won't mention that the fact the two dams I took out put enough stuff in a river that take 10,000 dredge miners 10,000 years to approximate a quarter of it. That's, I didn't say it. I just heard it.
How do we get to the point where our heritage, where a fish is more important than a nugget, and a bird is more important than a tree, and that a grape is more important than a three-leaf plant? Where do we get to this point? Why are we making those kinds of economic decisions?
They're not mutually exclusive.
That's why we're having these kind of meetings, because they're trying to find amongst ourselves. You know that thing that Abraham Lincoln said, a nation of the people, by the people, and for the people can not long endure, and see if it can. I think that the answer to your question may be simply this. If we the people don't work together and pay attention to what a few elitists and a few experts that are ruthlessly coming in and running over our federal laws, like the 1872 mining law, that's never been rescinded by Congress. When we let a few bureaucrats that round robin, like they're doing with the mining, they go from the DSL to the DEQ to this one or that one, and there's always someone going to our legislature and bringing it around the horn again, so we're constantly going to Salem and trying to protect. It'd be nice if we had a law in Oregon that no department can entertain any kind of litigation against any natural resource deal superfluously, without due cause, and also they'd have to have skin in the game like a bond. If they lose, they get whacked, because they're loading us citizens up with trying to prove we're innocent, and they're saying we're guilty before charge. So it's somewhere along those lines, is we need to have these meetings, and we need to keep it public, we need to keep hold each other accountable, but we don't need to give up our liberty and freedom. I'm an environmentalist. Let me tell you what kind. I live in Josephine County. I live out here in the North Valley. I don't want to ruin the Illinois River, the Applegate River, the Rogue River, and it offends me that someone from some other part of the world will assume that we would destroy Alltals Creek, which I've been on. I'm not into tearing up our, most of these dredge miners are pulling lead and junk out of the creeks, and they got buckets full of stuff that they've reclaimed. They ought to be given an award for heavy metal reclamation, in my opinion. And yes, I am a biology major from the University of New Orleans. I moved here in '88 and I've become an Oregonian. And I think we need to protect our heritage, our economy, and our future. So having said that, without being on the agenda, let's all stand and be adjourned.